Before we get into the video, I just wanted to take a second to say thank you to all the new subscribers. I appreciate you guys all checking out my channel, and glad you enjoy the videos. So in this video, I tried something new. The camera has a new lens on it, and it's got a new external mic on it, so it picks up some different sounds, and I recorded this over the course of a couple of days. So you'll notice that at certain times you'll hear in the background it sounds like white noise. That's actually an air purifier that we've got, or it's the cannula from this. Sometimes I have to turn the air up, and the mic was actually picking that up a little bit. So just wanted to say that's all that is, and otherwise let me know what you guys think of the video. Let's get on with the show. Hello everyone, I'm Rich Lamont. Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, welcome. In this video we're going to tie the Lady Amherst salmon fly. And if you saw in my last video last night, I put up selecting the feathers for this fly. And these would be the Amherst feathers that I selected. I have gone through and steamed them, brought them back to the shape that they should be. They didn't really need a whole lot of steaming, but steaming them does help and make sure that you have a nice solid feather to work with. Alright, so the hook that I'm using is a 6/0, and I'm using 150 denier thread. For the eye, I am using a silk gut substitute made of monofilament. It is twisted 12-pound mono that I have just added some cobbler's wax and heated while I was twisting. And as you can see, you get something that's quite similar to silk gut, at least in looks. So when you tie that in, you want to tie it in on the underside of the shank. And wrap up close to the eye. For this fly, I'm going to leave it fully gutted, which basically means I'm going to leave this the full length of the fly. For one, the hook is not tapered like some other blind eye hooks, but also this is a tinsel body fly, so I want the body to stay as smooth and even as possible. And by cutting the eye off, cutting any of this gut sub off anywhere in the middle is going to create a rise or a bump where that is, and I want to try to avoid that at all costs. So I'm going to leave this in all the way. All I'm doing right now is just lining it up and making sure that it's sitting the way I want it to. Also, let me know how the sound is on this video, along with the footage. I've got a different lens on my GoPro, and I also got an external mic on this, so I'm curious to see how well it changes the sound of the video. I know before some of you were commenting that an external mic would be much better and you'd be able to hear me a little bit better. It seemed to be a little bit muffled. Okay, now I've got that tied in. Go ahead and get our tinsel in for the tip. just going to be silver oval tinsel. So for this one, I'm actually going to do is just tie it in towards the back more. And we'll strip away some of the sheathing on this tinsel. And what that does is exposes this bit at the core. And by exposing the core, it's a little bit softer to tie in. Doesn't leave you so much of a bump underneath. Okay. Next we're going to use a little bit of underbody material, which I use woolly nylon or Unistretch. It's basically the same difference. Unistretch is just a brand name, just like all the other uni products that they sell, whereas woolly nylon is this. It's just a spool that I get it from Michael's, or you can even get it off of Amazon. And then you just take that and spool it up onto a empty thread spool, and just use that. So all I'm looking to do with this is to basically smooth out the body a little bit. As you can see that the silk up material has left a little bit of a lumpy body along the bottom. Excuse me. So we're just going to go through here and basically just build up a quick layer. You don't want to get too thick on this though. You don't want to have too thick of a body. So you just use this and go through and make yourself a nice little layer of it. And what you're doing is, as you wrap this, you can go through and smooth it out this way. You can use a burnisher, which I have just a, it's like a jewelry polishing stone. And you can just take that and run it down over this material. And that'll help the material kind of spread out a little bit and fill in all the little bumps and grooves. The main body on this is going to be tinsel, so it's not like we're wrapping floss over this, but tinsel can be a little finicky, especially if it's over a lumpy surface. So you want to make sure your surface is nice and smooth. And then back here we're going to build up a little bit of a transition between where the tag is and this underbody, this tie material. By rocking it back and forth like I'm doing as I'm wrapping it, that just helps settle the fibers even more. Alright, that's big enough, I think. I don't really want to make the body much bigger than that. I start having concerns of whether my hackle's long enough. If you recall my video yesterday, the hackle that I chose is off of a strung saddle hackle, and it's not a schlappen hackle, so it's I have concerns on its length. So what we can do is, when you have concerns like that, pick out about where you're going to tie it in, and then just kind of mock wrap it very gently. I'll be okay. But again, you don't want too thick of a body. In some instances it can look good, but otherwise it starts to look too bulky and now I'm tying in yellow silk at the back, so I am going to tie in with white thread. So I'm still using the same, the 150 denier. And I'm going to just burnish this really quick. It's not 100%, there is still some lumpiness to it. Well, should be okay though. The majority of it's done. Make sure that all the thread back here is nice and tight. Nothing sliding off down the hook shank. You see about where our tip and tag are going to be. I don't want to go too far back on the hook. I think I'm happy with that. About where our ostrich butt is going to be. And we'll use our yellow silk, in which case today I'm using the 54 Dean Street ephemera silk. It doesn't have a label on it, but if you look up 54 Dean Street, you'll be able to find it. Nice bright silk. And if you're only working with black thread, you should switch to white when working with lighter floss colors, orange, yellow, things like that. But this, I noticed, actually does cover black rather well. So if you're without white and you want to tie something, you know, you can definitely use this silk and have a good result. This one's also a little bit thicker. It's not as fine as some of the other Japanese silks that are out there. So this one does pile up a little bit faster. So it is, you know, with some patterns you may have to reduce that a little bit and actually split this, depending on the scenario. But for this case it's fine, as is. A lot of times you'll wrap your tinsel and then do your tag, but what I'm doing here is, well, I'll show you why I've left that. I wanted to get a little bit fancy with this one, so 3 wraps there. And then I'm going to do a couple spaced out right here. And if you choose to go this way, it does look a little fancier, and I don't believe this is ever a pattern specific thing, but if you do it, make sure that you tie off your tinsel underneath or on the side of the hook. If you wind up tying off your tinsel on the top of the hook, that could affect the angle of your tail. You tie it off up here, when you tie your tail in, your tail could wind up hitting the edge of that tinsel, and that'll create your tail to stick upward. You want to have your tail, if you want your tail to have more of a an outline and follow the hook shank, tie your tinsel off on the bottom or side of the hook. We'll put on our golden pheasant crest for our tail. In the books, this is referred to as a topping, so if you see it in the book, even though it is a golden pheasant crest, it's still considered a topping, and vice versa. All I was doing there, just shaping that topping a little bit, just making it have the profile that I'd like to see with this fly. And if you want to double check your work and kind of see how it's going to look, you can hold some feathers up to it and kind of judge on how that's going to go. Okay, like that. Now here you want to make sure you wax your thread. I'll just do 1 or 2 wraps. And what we want to do is have a little bit of teal for the tail veiling. So for that, we're just going to take, I've got a teal feather here that's got pretty even on both sides. So we're just going to take a little bit from both sides. Alright, so now that we've pulled our teal away, we'll pair them up back to back, just like this. So here you have a couple fibers that are out of place, you can just pull them off. And then we'll just follow the curvature of the tail with the curvature of the teal. And then just one loose wrap and then another. And once you've got those tied in good, excuse me, go ahead and snip these away. Now in some videos you'll notice I'll snip this away after I put in the hurl butt. Some instances it doesn't matter that much. It depends on your material and depends on the fly you're working on that day and how the materials are laid down. Alright, next we just want to make sure we've got some wax on our thread again. Just a couple of wraps to make sure that you've got enough on there to hold your hurl from sliding. And take your ostrich hurl and just go ahead and strip away a little bit of this fluff at the bottom, exposing that quill inside. And then take the quill, the hurl rather, and wrap it with the quill facing forward, the fluffy part facing back. Make sure you wrap these as touching turns, as close to each other as you can possibly get. Sorry about the sounds, it's evening in the Lamont household. Okay, and then tie that off. After you've tied that off, grab your tinsel, which the body tinsel for this is silver flat. So I'm just using double-sided mylar, which is gold and silver. You're going to wrap that with the silver side, or tie it in rather, with the silver side facing up. That'll ensure that when you start to wrap it, it'll wrap in the same orientation. The ribbing is large oval solder tinsel. In this case I'm using Vivis. And I'm going to do the same thing I did before and strip away some of this outer sheathing and then tie in at the core. And then finally I'm going to wrap in my hackle, which is the badger hackle. So spread that out like this. And right at the tip where we're going to tie in, we'll just get that exposed. Now remember, when you wrap your tinsel, it's going to wrap this way. And you want your hackle to wrap on the back side of that. So we are going to tie that in on the front side. With the oval tinsel. And at this point you can wrap all the way to the front of the fly, where we're going to tie off and switch to our black thread once again, which you don't really need to tie off. You can just take your black thread and, just like you were starting the fly, wrap right over it like so. There we go. Now we're ready to start wrapping our tinsel. Alright, so I'm going to take the thread and we'll wrap up to the head. And just leave that there. And I'm just going to let them line out so that way I can use my rotary function if I need to. And we'll wrap our body tinsel. Body tinsel wrap should be nice and even. Turns should all be touching. And try to make sure that you don't wrap up your hackle in there. I'll tuck that off to the side. Let me get away without using the rotary today. There we are. We're not going to clip that off completely just yet. I want to make sure that we're not going to need to go back and make any corrections or anything. Next we'll take our ribbing, which is our oval tinsel, and just wrap that around. Do 5 equal turns, maybe 6, depending. 4. 5. I guess it's 6 it is. Between 5 and 7, I think, is the standard for most salmon flies. 5 being the most common. Okay. Now what we'll do is we're going to cut our tinsel kind of close in here, the oval. And we're going to back off the thread just enough to be able to strip it. And then again, we will tie it off. Only this time we're going to tie it off on this center cord. That helps reduce bulk at the head. And you should be able to adjust your tinsel wraps just a little bit. There we are. And now for our hackle, the badger, we're just going to take that and we'll fold it back as we wrap, palmering it all the way up. So we'll wrap a little and pull a little back. And we'll wrap a little, pull a little back. If you're doing this and you're using your rotary function, you just have to remember to unwind some of your thread up front here as soon as you get done wrapping it. And right here, we'll just pull away some of that material. Tie that off. And then we can go ahead and I'll just snip away the rest of this tinsel. Doing it that way, much less bulk at the head, much less to worry about when building your head later. Now you've got a little bit of room here to build up your throat, which for this is green wing teal. So we'll go ahead and select our teal feather. Okay, now for the throat, we're going to tie in some teal. And with teal feathers on the throat, if you look at the way a teal feather is curved, a lot of them are going to come with this natural curve like this. So when you're wrapping your teal feathers, you don't want to wrap both sides and double it over. That'll cause your feathers to, or the feather barbs, to kind of intertwine, and you'll wind up having some curling back and some will curl forward. So instead what you want to do is decide which one you're going to use for your throat. Now if you've got the room, you can wrap 2 of these to make it a little bit thicker, and I'll show you exactly what I mean by 2 of them instead of doubling. Now doubling, you'd be folding this hackle in half like that, and as you can see, when I do that, they curl towards each other, and that'll wind up happening on the throat, and you'll have some that'll curl outward this way, some that'll curl that way, and what you really want to have is just the ones that'll curl inward towards the fly. So what we're going to do is pick out which side here. This feather is pretty even on both sides as far as barring and length. So what we're going to do is strip off one side and then wrap that, and then we'll go for the other, for another feather, and wrap the opposite side in the opposite direction. So we're going to go through, and first I'm going to wrap clockwise. So to wrap clockwise, alright, the one you're going to want to have is this side, the one that's on the right side of the feather. So we'll go up to the tip, and we're going to strip away one side. So we'll just strip away most of these on the one side, and you'll strip away the fluff on the other, because you're not going to use that fluff. And then we will take this here, right to the tip, and tie that in. And I like to fold it back a little bit. That just kind of locks that into place. And you can snip off the top. This way, when you wrap your feather, that rearward curling won't be interfered with by the opposite side of the feather. Tie that one off. Okay, with the teal throat on, the next is the underwing, which is 2 long jungle cock feathers that protrude out to the back, and you want them to line up with the tip of the tail. So that puts our tie-in point about here. And then what I'm going to do is we stripped away the fluff. I'm just going to snip a little bit of this here. And that just gives your thread a little something to bite into. Something to kind of hold it in place. Next is the Lady Amherst pheasant feathers. Back side, front side. Alright, so if we got to this point, okay, so we've got the first set of wings on. I gotta say I'm not overly happy with it. I'd like to do a little trimming here. A little fluff on that jungle cock on the inside. You see that kind of poking through a little bit. And now we'll go for the second set of Amherst feathers. We want the barring to line up a little bit with the curved edge of the second feather to line up on the line up with the butt. And I'd like to keep this hackle up high as much as I can. I don't want to have to fold too much of it down, but some of this is getting in the way. Okay. And then the other side. Okay, I like that. I'm going to throw a little head cement on there. This is just a little bit of Sally Hansen's Hard as Nails. This one's the strengthener. It's a little on the thinner side. If you go with the hardener, that one's a little bit thicker. Both work pretty well, but this one's a little bit thinner and soaks in a little bit better. I'm happy with that. And then once that sets up, we can go through and we'll be able to preen these a little bit better. It shouldn't take too long to set up. Once that sets up, we'll clip off all these stems. I didn't want to have to tie them in individually the way I did, but I've actually been struggling with these wings a little bit, which doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes a fly just doesn't want to go together for you. So with this one, I tried tying it in several different ways. I tried tying the wings in all together. I tried tying them one at a time and then backing off each thread wrap, and each time for some reason it just didn't want to work. I even tried flattening out the stems, and I just had a hard time with it. I don't know why. This is the first time I've ever tied this pattern, so it is a bit of a learning experience for me. I have done a lot of whole wing flies before and don't typically have this kind of an issue, but yeah, this one just presented some problems, so I'm just going with it. And I think what I'm going to do, because this is, sorry for the noises, we've got farmland just up the road here, but I think what I'm going to do for the head on this one is I'm going to do a hurl head. It's not typical for the pattern, but I'm going to put one on there anyway, since the head is a little bit on the larger side. Maybe that'll help hide the fact that the head is a little out of proportion. Alright, get a blade. And let's just cut these. Hopefully they stay in place. Sharp blade helps. Okay. And next there's the jungle cock eyes on the side, which is a smaller pair of jungle cock. And a couple of eyes here. They've fallen into my trash bin here. I had to pull them out of my scrap pile. There it is, okay. Alright, so now lining them up, I want them to start right about where this fuzz ends. So we're going to strip off some of this fuzz, and then just like some of the others, we're going to snip off the rest, giving you a cleaner tie-in point. And those little fibers there will kind of act as something for the thread to grab onto. And same on the back side. When you're wrapping on the back side and you're tying in feathers, always make sure to do a second wrap. In this case, what I'm going to do is back off of that first one so they both get tied in together. You want to do a second wrap on this back side especially, because if you only do one over, and then when you stand your vise back up like this, now your backside feather is only being held on by just that one wrap. So you want to make sure you've got that second wrap on there to hold it in place. And then the cheek is a Cotinga feather, but in this case I'm just going to use some Kingfisher. Kingfisher is a great sub for Cotinga. It's got some very nice color that's very close. And Kingfisher is also a little easier to work with. It's got a little bit of a softer rachis on it. Okay, happy with that. And just a light dab of some head cement. From here we'll go to the topping. Getting close to finishing her up. And the topping I've selected should curve almost around the back end of the fly, which is what we want. Strip away that one piece that's kind of useless. If you're not used to using tweezers, I highly recommend that you do that. Start practicing with them. A good pair of tweezers can get you a long way with a salmon fly. I think my tying point's going to be right about there. Kink that a little bit. And just strip away any of that little bit of fluff that's right here at the base of this crest. And these little stragglers will get in the way of the thread when you're tying it in. Go a little further. And just a little more. Trying to reach a specific shape, and I want the topping and the tail to not necessarily meet and touch, but to end at the same point where the topping ends just above the tail. And that'll get me that desired look that I'm after. There we go. A couple more stragglers and we're there. As you can see, that's still a little too long. I'm approaching the point on this crust where it's becoming the wrong one for this, so if this doesn't, this next adjustment doesn't work, I'll have to find a different crest. Though I do like the shape of this one and the orientation of the barbs, so I'd really like to make this one work. There we are. That's what I'm looking for. Yes, that is the shape that I'm looking for. Now let's just hope that I can keep that shape and get this all tied in nicely. Add some wax to my thread. And now I'm going to just clip off these little stems here. Add some more wax to the thread to get ready to build the pearl head. Get rid of all these things. As you can see, this fly turned out, the head's a little farther away from the eye than I would like. And it's much larger than I would like. I don't know if Pearlhead is going to hide that very well, but I've got some hopes. I'm just adding a lot of extra wax on here. What I'm going to do is heat that up shortly. By doing this, it'll help the pearl head stick to it better. Alright, so we're going to take our black ostrich turtle, I've got right here. I've got a nice lengthy one. And then, as before, you don't need any thread in particular for this. There's different ways to do hurl heads. This one I found to be the way that works for me. I may have mentioned this before. I learned this from Ryan Houston, watching his YouTube channel. So if you've never watched it, go over and check out his channel as well. He's got some great stuff. Hundreds of videos. And a terrific fly tire. Alright, so you take your thread and all you do is just double it over and make a loop. No knots, just a loop. And you just take that loop and tie it in on the underside of the fly. Right on the underside of the head. And just pull that back down. And just kind of let that dangle. You don't want it to twist up though, you want to have an actual loop. I'll show you, you'll see why in just a moment. So you keep that loop from twisting, tie that in, and put the tail end over back here, out of the way. And then you'll go and strip off the front like you were doing on a butt. And expose that quill on the inside. And that's where you'll tie in, as you normally would. And then wrap your head. And you always want to make sure when you're doing the head that the quill faces forward and the fuzzier part faces back. So I can get one more wrap without it sliding. Nope. I think that's all I'm going to get. So then you take a pair of tweezers and you come through the loop and you want to pull that ostrich hurl through the loop. Then take your back end of the thread and start pulling that through. And as you pull that through, it's going to grab this tail end of your ostrich roll. And then keep pulling. And either the thread will break or the ostrich roll will break. So the thread pulled through, which means the hurl broke inside there, which is fine. It's kind of what you want. And then you can just clip that off. And when you're done with that, you can go ahead and clip off your thread. It is not the best hurl head. We'll go ahead and we'll throw a small bit of lacquer on there. First I'm going to take my cauterizer. I'm just going to go through and make sure that there's no extra threads or feather pieces, or anything sticking out of the head area that's going to make that varnish lumpy. Definitely too much of the hook sticking out. I could have come a little bit farther forward with it. But overall, I think I'm pretty happy with this fly for my first try at it. Do a little bit of preening, a little bit of adjusting. There we are. And here we have the finished Lady Amherst classic salmon fly. So if you guys enjoyed that video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, think about subscribing. That's going to help me. It's going to help me produce more content for you guys. It lets me know also that I'm producing good content and that it's helpful for you. So I'll go ahead and subscribe and share this with your friends, share it with your family, anybody that you know that might be interested in salmon flies. Send them over to the channel. I'm going to have lots of stuff coming out. Every week I try to get out a few videos. Sometimes I can only get out one or two, but I will have more coming up. I'll have some instructionals. I'm going to have another video coming out shortly that's going to involve body material and different ways of wrapping different bodies. So keep your post notifications on for that. And for now, happy tying everyone. Tight lines. Take care.